Each immigrant, which I am authorized to settle under my contracts with the government as impresario, is notified to present himself to me in person and hand in a list containing the number of dependents, servants, his occupation or trade, and the recommendations accrediting the Christianity, morality, and steady habits of the applicant. None who cannot present satisfactory recommendations and have not actually removed with their families to this colony need apply. Stephen Austin.
The impresario stood at the threshold of a breathtaking expanse of rich plains and dense forests, of natural harbors and great herds of wild beasts. With the arrival of his first colonists, Stephen Austin fulfilled a legacy, but the history of Texas would soon begin along the shores of the Brazos River.
Austin established his headquarters and the capital of his colony on a high bluff along the Brazos River at a place called San Felipe de Austin. It was never more than a ramshackle collection of log houses with a couple of inns and taverns, a land office.
Many of these Austin colonists adopted a term for themselves, Texian. And this term is an interesting hybrid, denoting that these people are no longer entirely American, but neither are they entirely Mexican. They're somewhere in between, Texian.
Along the Brazos River is a most beautiful situation for a town or settlement. The country back of this place for about 15 miles is as good in every respect as a man could wish for. Land all first rate, plenty of timber, fine water. Austin, 1820.
Austin's urban namesake, San Felipe de Austin, was hardly in keeping with the myth of the great land speculating impresario. It was a little dirt town, a scattering of log cabins, a few trees cut down with the stump standing, capital of Austin's colony. Another log cabin, perhaps a little larger than the others, but not very imposing at all. Chickens moving through the streets, hogs grunting nearby, cattle pasturing not far away.
The land opportunities in Texas were fantastic. You could get in Texas more than 4,000 acres of land for less than $100 in fees and charges. Land in the United States cost $1.25 an acre. They were family people. They set up first subsistence farms. They tended as quickly as they could toward getting into cash crop production.
In a place like San Felipe, the first thing that was planted was corn. Further south, they would have gone for sugarcane, and certainly in time, cotton. Cotton was the cash crop.
But along with cotton, the Texians brought their inhumane and callous institution, slavery.
In Texas, to grow cotton in any significant quantities, slave labor was necessary. The reason for that was cotton needed a lot of labor, particularly at picking time. With land so cheap, there was no free labor to be hired.
Cotton culture was booming, and with the growth of this cash crop, Texas became a magnet for Anglo-American settlers.
Mexican officials are at first delighted that so many of these Anglo-Celtic Texians come to Texas to settle. But then they keep coming and coming and coming. And by 1829, they're beginning to wonder how they're going to stop, how the presence of these Americans is going to affect the complexion of Texas. A General Manuel Mier y Terán leads an expedition. He was told, look around, see what you can find. He comes back and reports, either we take steps to keep these Americans out, or we lose Texas forever.
General Terán's report prompted Mexico to enact the hated law of April 6, 1830.
Among the important provisions of the law were a ban on further Anglo-American immigration, which of course strikes a mortal blow at the whole impresario system. also a law abolishing slavery in Texas, and various other laws aimed at strengthening relationships between Texas and Mexico and weakening American influence.
In the wake of this law of April 1830, many American colonists in Texas are alarmed. What it means is that they're cut off from friends and relatives back in the United States who now can't join them in Texas. They had intended, of course, to grow with the land, with this new province, but now it seems that they have been relegated to a second-class status.
Land speculators, including Stephen Austin, became increasingly nervous. They petitioned for redress in the Mexican government, but this only added to the suspicions of the Mexicans. Finally, it was decided by the central government in Mexico that Texas must be garrisoned.
An army was sent north from Mexico, inflaming the Texans with talk of revolution and independence. Into this scene would ride Sam Houston, appointed Indian agent by Andrew Jackson. He was sent to negotiate with the Comanche bands raiding both sides of the Red River that separated the United States from the vacant land that was Texas.
What the devil am I going to do in Texas? Sam Houston, 1833.
Fathers of Texas will continue in a moment here on A&E. Fathers of Texas.
Where Sam Houston went, whatever Sam Houston did, he was a most spectacular figure in a spectacular era. In 1832, that era saw Texas on the brink of a revolution. Houston would arrive there with military fame forged in the War of 1812. This stood in stark contrast to the impresario Stephen Austin. While Austin was introspective, diplomatic, and pledged to Mexico, Houston was aggressive, flamboyant, and uncompromisingly American. Still, one future hovered above both men, and like Stephen Austin, Sam Houston's destiny lay ahead in Texas. It was 1832. The Red River was low in early December, and it was here that Sam Houston would splash into history.
The hour that Sam Houston crossed the Red River into Texas in December of 1832, he became the most famous human being in Texas. He was nationally famous as a war hero in the War of 1812, as a lieutenant of Andrew Jackson's, as congressman and flamboyant governor of Tennessee. And the mere appearance of Sam Houston in Texas guaranteed that Sam Houston would achieve public notice, public notoriety, perhaps.
Upon his arrival, Houston spent little time on the Comanche frontier where President Jackson had dispatched him. Instead, he applied to Stephen Austin for a land grant. 2 months later, he was the elected delegate from his tiny town of Nacogdoches.
We have weddings so fast and numerous that it will take up too much room to give a list. An old bachelor who hates baby music has no business here, for he would be beset with squalling brats at every turn. Stephen Austin, 1832.
But there was more happening in San Felipe than marriages and expanding families.
American colonists in Texas have a number of grievances against the Mexican government. The chief of these, of course, is the hated law of April 1830, which they want to see repealed immediately. In addition, they want steps taken to ensure the protection of their peculiar institution, slavery.
A makeshift capital was established up the Brazos River from San Felipe and named Washington on the Brazos. It was here that the groundwork was laid for revolution.
The first step toward the revolution in Texas came in 1832 and 1833 when two conventions of Texans were held in response to some problems they had with the Mexican government. In both of those conventions, the Texans demanded that they be made a separate state. In the second convention in 1833, which Sam Houston attended, a proposed constitution was written for the separate state of Texas, and Houston played a major role in writing that.
A constitution written, Stephen F. Austin would sail for Mexico and deliver this proposal to the government in Mexico City.
I have always been of the opinion that a silent and quiet course was the true one for Texas. I wish to see it grow up in tranquility, like an oak sapling in a thick forest. And I have felt for Texas as a parent feels for its only child when he believes it to be in danger. Stephen Austin.
Upon his arrival, the government was controlled by a general named Santa Anna.
In Mexico City, Austin at first seemed to think that things were going very well. He had met with Santana, with General Antonio Lopez de Santana, and had the sense that Texas would be granted more autonomy. Then he wrote an indiscreet letter from Mexico City suggesting that whatever happened, Texas ought to take initiative and secure its own autonomy.
Austin's letter was intercepted and he was put in jail in Mexico City. He would be kept there for nearly 2 years. Upon his return, he had formed strong opinions of Santa Anna and the Mexican government.
Santa Anna is a base, unprincipled, bloody monster. War is our only recourse. No halfway measures, but war in full. Stephen Austin, 1835.
The actual conflict of the Texas Revolution, the shooting, the dying, the bleeding, begins in Gonzales on October 2nd, 1835. When push came to shove, the issue was a 6-pound cannon that the Mexicans had previously given the citizens of Gonzales for Indian defense.
When the Mexican authorities demanded the cannon back, the settlers refused, and a detachment of Mexican troops was sent from San Antonio to reclaim the cannon. The settlers packed the cannon with scrap iron and cut up horseshoes and nails, and they drew up a large banner that said, "Come and take it."
When the Mexican force appeared to come and take it, the Texian settlers let them have it.
The people of Texas are informed that their fellow citizens at Gonzales have been attacked. The war has commenced. Sam Houston, 1835.
With Santa Anna's forces defeated at the Gonzales Mission, a small voluntary army of Texans stayed in nearby San Antonio to defend the outpost there. It was called the Alamo.
By that time, Sam Houston had been appointed commander-in-chief of the regular Texas Army. And the only problem was there wasn't any regular army, and he had great difficulty convincing the volunteers to pay any attention to him.
But on March 2nd, 1836, delegates finally met at Washington on the Brazos and declared independence from Mexico. Sam Houston was instrumental in helping draft the new Republic of Texas Constitution, and finally, it seemed that a workable government might actually be constructed.
At dawn on March 6, 1836, 4,000 of Santa Anna's Mexican troops besieged the Alamo and killed all 183 Texans defending it. The battle was over in 90 minutes. Another deadly siege for the Texans would ensue, this time at the mission of Goliad under the command of Colonel James Fannin.
Fannin makes an attempt to withdraw. It's too slow. He's caught out on the open prairies, forced to surrender. The Mexicans march them back, and a week later, under Santana's orders, the entire Goliad command is executed at the so-called Goliad Massacre.
As Sam Houston and the other delegates were signing the Declaration of Independence, the Alamo was under siege. Then would come the news of the massacre at Goliad, in the sense that there was nothing between them and Santa Anna's army. This initiated a period known as the Runaway Scrape.
Houses empty, their home fires still burning, the settlers fled hastily to the east, hoping to outrun Santa Anna's rapidly advancing army.